Welcome back to Postscript. We are in Season 2, Episode 3 of our Miss Scarlet Summer. I'm Christina Zeiders.
And I'm Tom Downing. And please feel free to watch along with us on the PBS Video app or by visiting us on witf.org/passport.
Yep, and then join us for the next 3 weeks by listening on your favorite podcast platform or watching on youtube.com at WITF Mosaic.
And we still have a very special treat for you this season. If you've been following along, we've been mentioning this before, but we still have the bingo card available. And you can go to...
Yeah, WITF.org PS bingo, or /PS bingo. I keep forgetting slashes, by the way. To print your own card, spot the clues using your eyes and ears throughout all 6 episodes.
And every week you can send us your clues at ps@witf.org. So there's emails there.
And at the end of the season, we'll send you a YouTube link to a special bonus episode where we'll reveal all of the clues and where to find them.
And we're going to be playing along too, and we've already talked about this. We've missed a few already, so maybe you can tell us what we've missed in the emails that you send. So please send those to us or leave a comment below if you're watching us on YouTube.
Yep.
And let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. So this opening is fantastic. Eliza is hunting for something that she's lost, and so is Ivy. And Ivy's just like complaining the whole time about how Eliza's always losing everything.
Yeah, they're at their house. They're like turning everything over, trying to find these things. Oh, the office. Okay.
Yeah, they're in her office, and they're looking for a ring. She knows she had it on yesterday, and this is when the police arrive.
Yes,
and they're like, is Eliza Scarlet? And Ivy says yes, I think. And Eliza says no.
There's a bit of confusion there.
And then Eliza goes, I'm Eliza. And they ask her if she's lost a piece of jewelry. And she's like, yes, I lost my mother's wedding ring. Was there anything inscribed on it? And she's like, from my father to my mother, from my beloved to Lavina Scarlet. Lavina? Yes.
I didn't catch that bit, but yes, it was. But at this point, you're thinking like Eliza's like, "Oh wow, someone's found my ring. This is such a good thing."
So this doesn't sound like a bad thing, except that the ring was found at the mortuary by Mr. Potts.
Oh, and I love this quote by Ivy. Ivy's like, "Is he the one that calls you an unchristian woman with the morals of an alley cat?"
Yes, I didn't pick up that quote until I actually was listening to it on my way into work today. And I thought it was a really cute transition because we then break to after she gets arrested.
But yeah,
because we transition quickly to William acting like an alley cat.
Oh yeah,
in
exactly.
Some strange woman's apartment.
I didn't make that connection, but yes, that is very true. So back with Eliza in the office, she thought that she was just getting her ring back, but really, surprise, she's under arrest
under arrest. They think she broke into the mortuary,
which is a felony.
Yes, and I mean, to be fair, she does enter the mortuary against Mr. Potts' will all the time.
Yes,
so it doesn't seem completely out of the ordinary.
Yeah,
but we do actually find out that like someone broke in by breaking windows. That's not Eliza.
So she's getting carted away to the jail, and she yells out, "Find William!" And I'm like, she's already going to jail, already in the episode. It's like,
she's already arrested.
Yes, that's check that off.
Which is not a bingo.
No,
not a bingo clue.
Could definitely have been one.
Should have been a free spot. So yeah, Ivy tracks William down. There's a knock on the door, and at first I think we're at William's.
Yeah, that's what I thought at first too, but we're not.
But we're not. He's in a messy and lavish bedroom that does not belong to him. It belongs to a tart, as they like to call these women.
I think her name was Betsy, I saw.
Yeah, so. Betsy. I think it was revealed later on that it was Betsy. Ivy's outside. She's like, Eliza's been arrested. And William says, tell her that it's my day off. And then Betsy's just like, who's this Eliza?
Yeah, which at this point I'm like, first off, how did Ivy know where to go to find William? Which I think is revealed a little bit later in the episode.
Oh,
a little. It's subtle, but like that's one of those things where I'm like, how did she find him?
Ivy's a little detective herself.
I think. Well, there's more to it than that. But anyway, we'll cut to. So after that, who is this Eliza? We cut to outside of Betsy's apartment or house or whatnot, and like William's there. He's like half clothed and. He's like, she's not my wife.
She's not my wife. He's just screaming, she's not my wife, and clothes is raining down from above. I think he gets hit in the head with a shoe at one point.
Oh, I think so, yeah. Ivy says, ready, Inspector, Miss Scarlet really does need your help. And William grimaces, and then that's when he gets hit in the head of the back.
Yeah, it looks like it was a shoe. I rewound it a couple times, but I was not positive, but it looked very shoe-like.
It was great. And that's the
that's
cut.
The opening.
That's the cut into the title sequence right there. So title sequence goes through. We wind up after that with Eliza in Scotland Yard with Inspector Phelps.
Yes.
And Eliza's still like trying to figure out exactly what happened. Phelps says, let me enlighten you. Phelps says that he's describing Mr. Potts' description of Eliza. And he says, and it just, Mr. Potts, the
mortuary.
The coroner, I guess.
Guy.
Yeah. He said he called her an unscrupulous woman who is as trustworthy as a bag of snakes.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And Eliza says, I am no thief. And Phelps says, well, your ring was found at the crime scene. And this is when Eliza pauses and she thinks and she just kind of shifts gears and she says dramatically,
I know.
I have no idea it got there. And she's playing like the
morgue is no place for a lady.
Exactly. And so I was laughing about that too. And then William shows up and again, he mentions that it's his day off. And then this is where Eliza says, were you doing something nice?
Were you doing something nice?
So this is where I think how Ivy knew because Eliza knows everything and is keeping tabs on everyone,
including her BFF William.
Exactly. So I am pretty confident that Ivy didn't do her own sleuthing. I think Eliza knew exactly where
he's at Betsy's.
Exactly.
Go get William. He's at Betsy's.
That's kind of what I was thinking. So
that's possible.
Yeah. So William wants the truth. Eliza was there at the mortuary. But she said she has no choice but to break in like a common criminal.
But she says, I didn't steal anything. Yeah. And she says, I looked at the files and put them back. And she didn't go in the night. She went during Potts' lunch break. Yeah. And she didn't break in because why would she? She has a key. Which is illegal as well.
Yeah. So it wasn't. At this point, William is drinking heavily. Like I just noticed. Like I'm like, as this is going on, he just keeps like.
It's his day off, to be fair.
True. But it's just things keep escalating, and then Fitzroy enters.
Yeah, it doesn't actually. She's not really building her own case here. No, it's not the case that she thinks she's building anyway.
Monroe wants to talk with William. Fitzroy tells William that Monroe wants to talk with him, and William says to Eliza, "Do not move." And then he leaves.
Like foreshadowing.
Oh, of course,
we know she's gonna
move.
Yeah. Before he leaves, though, Eliza does say, "You do believe me, don't you?" And he kind of looks at her, and you can tell he believes her, but he has no idea how he's going to convince anyone otherwise because her ring was found there. Like, it makes sense that she was the one that broke into this morgue. Yeah. So Mr. Thackeray, the chief coroner, is in Monroe's office, and there's been more than one break-in.
Oh, yeah.
We find out. Monroe and Thackeray both believe they're all tied to Eliza because if one morgue was broken into, it must be by the same person. It's the same. It's within the same time and grab sort of deal.
Yeah, and they were at Kentish Town and Swish Cottage.
Oh, okay. You wrote those down.
Confidential files were stolen at each location.
Yep.
And at this point, I'm thinking, is Mr. Thackeray a suspect? I have that written down.
And
then laughs at the fact that there was a lady detective.
Yeah, such nonsense, I think he says.
And Mr. Thackeray's like, the reason why I thought he was probably a suspect was he was like super insistent that they just like, Eliza's guilty and done.
Lock her up.
Yeah.
Why a further investigation? Because Monroe tells William to take her down to Holloway to be held until they could conduct a further investigation. And then Monroe orders William to charge Eliza. And when he goes back to his office, obviously she's gone. We didn't know that was coming.
No.
But yeah, William actually does try to stick up for her. He says she's had some minor confrontations with Mr. Potts, but he doesn't believe she's the culprit for these. We flash back to Eliza's now because now it's a woman hunt for Eliza. Yep. She is a suspect and she has gone missing.
Yeah. So we're at her home. Yeah. She's not there. William is asking Ivy, who I think she's cleaning carrots or something, where Eliza is. Ivy
Yeah, she's like peeling something, so it's carrots or potatoes probably.
Ivy just asks William to help her, and William is looking for Moses. William says, those two are as thick as thieves, talking about Eliza and Moses. And then William leaves, and Ivy says, are you sure you weren't followed? Like into the room.
Into the abyss.
And behind the door,
it's Moses. I honestly thought it was Eliza. I forgot how this exactly unfolded, but no, it's Moses. And I just Ivy is a really good liar. Can we just have a moment to appreciate how good of a liar she is compared to Eliza and Moses?
She's probably the best liar on
the show.
Yeah, I think so. And that's really illustrated later in this episode as well. Ivy really shines in this episode.
She, this is kind of like one of her character building episodes where we get to see Ivy as Ivy and not just the housekeeper and mother figure. So this is really nice.
I totally agree. And so Ivy's worried and Moses says just stick to the plan, which we're like,
so
what
we
plan?
know there's a plan.
There's a plan.
And Ivy's going to stick to it, but she doesn't know she can. And he reminds her that she just lied to the detective inspector so she can do this.
Yeah. And well.
And well, yes.
So we cut to outside Scotland Yard, and then William tells Monroe inside that Eliza is gone. Monroe is not happy and just find her.
Yeah.
And so this is just a cut, a little short clip. And then we
lost her.
Yeah, we cut back to the city morgue. There's no public entry on the sign, which I thought was okay. So Eliza definitely broke in.
Yeah.
Clearly
the
sign says no public entry. So
I did not notice the sign.
Mr. Potts is honored to be with Ivy, which is really weird. Yeah, so she's pretending to be the wife of Mr. Thackeray, the chief coroner, who we just saw, who was being very insistent that Eliza was guilty.
Yes, she is there because Thackeray says she says that Mr. Thackeray wanted her to go check up and make sure that he was doing okay after such a traumatic event. And
this is where I wrote down Ivy's a good actor. I mean, obviously the actress who's playing Ivy is a good actress, but
even the character itself, this is very, very in depth,
very much
layers and layers of very good actor.
Yes.
So Potts is flattered, and he does feel violated because someone came into his innermost sanctum, which is his office where he keeps his work files.
And Eliza does it a lot.
Yeah.
Must feel very violated by her on a regular basis.
And he starts talking about Eliza unprompted. She's no lady. She's a charlatan. And Ivy asks what was stolen. Well, Ivy first says that her husband told her all about it and what a curious profession for a woman. But then she asks what was stolen, and Potts is like, I thought your husband told you all about this.
He's a little, he's starting to see through the web of lies.
No, he's not, though.
He is or he is?
Because she recovers very quickly.
She does.
She goes, this is where she pretends to be oh, no, I'm just a poor damsel. This happens 3 times in the episode. So Eliza does it, and Ivy does it. And then later on, Bloody Mary does it.
Good point, yeah.
So this is a common theme that the men just think that women are all dainty little things that can't keep any information in her head in this case. Oh, yeah, he told me all about it, but I've forgotten. And Potts, at first, he looks like he's not going to believe her. But he says he doesn't believe her.
Yeah.
But then he says, you are I believe you are far too smart for that. And then he says, the tea. I need to give you tea. So he's flattering her. He still thinks that she's Mrs. Thackeray. And Ivy goes, I quite forgotten why I was here. I wanted to invite you to dinner.
Yes,
so she recovers very quickly.
Yes.
Back on this whole flattery thing. And since he's so flattered, he shares more information with her about what was stolen.
Yeah, and this is when we find out that the confidential files stolen contain lists of unidentified bodies who died 25 years ago in the August of 1857, which lets us know that right now in this episode it's 1882. So Ivy hopes Eliza's safe house is respectable.
Right. And it's not exactly Claridge's, but it will do. So she's meeting with Moses in the alley like Eliza does.
Yeah.
So Ivy's really just trying on Eliza's
She's being the Eliza in this episode.
She's a detective this time. Yep. Then we find out where Eliza is staying next.
We cut to Eliza at the safe house.
Not quite respectable.
There are flies buzzing
There
around.
are flies, and I think underwear hanging up to dry.
Yeah. And this is when we find out that she's at Clementine's.
She is at Clementine's.
And Clementine helped her out in one of the previous episodes.
Yep.
And so,
to get some information.
Yep.
She cornered a respectable man,
Yes.
acting like, well, you saw me last night. Here's the note.
Yeah.
So Eliza's staying with Clementine, and when Clementine walks in, Eliza thanks her for letting her stay while Moses clears her name of these false allegations. Yeah. And Clementine's like, yes, they're always false. And then Eliza shares that she's been accused of breaking into the morgue. And Clementine says, on Bell Lane, my sister Clementine works that street. And there's this whole exchange about, your sister is named Clementine too. She says, all my sisters are. Makes it easier for my mother to know who's who. Which I just love that. So Clementine offers to pay her sister a visit, but she makes sure that, like, Eliza knows that her sister's no pleasant lady, and so she's going to need some money, please.
Yeah, and so Eliza pays her to go see other Clementine.
Yes, but not enough at first.
No, and Clementine says that her sister Clementine punched a dog in the face.
Yeah, so this is how we know how bad her sister Clementine is.
Yeah.
Clementine's sister Clementine is so bad that she has punched a dog in the face, so she's going to need more money. She takes great risks going and seeing her.
So then after that, we cut to Scotland Yard, where William is talking to his men, including Phelps. And he says, this man, Moses, is the key. And Fitzroy enters as everyone else is leaving.
Yeah.
And William basically, like, Fitzroy feels like he's being left out of the situation.
The conversation,
but William, it's actually the opposite. William is taking him into confidence.
Yes.
And tells Fitzroy that he feels that Eliza's innocent. And this line of inquiry is strictly between us, he says.
Yes, I said he gives Fitzroy a secret side quest.
Yeah.
To prove her innocence. So, yeah, this is nice because we get to see William and Fitzroy connecting. And obviously, William trusts him a lot, which is not something at the beginning of the season that seemed to be happening.
No.
So there's been some shift in their relationship.
Big turning point, yes.
And obviously, Fitzroy is competent at the investigation part, maybe not so much the raid part.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's less of a physical inspector, more of an
more
analytical.
of like an under the cover of darkness. Let's figure this out sort of thing.
So Fitzroy found In his analysis, Fitzroy found 14 pauper graves to check out and had maps as well. And so William is going to investigate those.
Yeah, they're all marked with an X, which I thought was funny. Back at Clementine's, Clementine returns home and she says she went to see her sister. Her sister saw the thief with her one eye. But then
her one eye.
One eye.
She got her eye. Was it injured in a wrestling match with her grandmother? So it's a rough family. Is what we're getting.
Rough family.
So,
but yeah, after she says this like little nugget of information, she immediately falls asleep.
Yeah.
So
she's tired.
Eliza's just stuck there waiting her out.
So we cut back to William.
He arrives at the first cemetery.
Yeah, which is Highgate Cemetery. William interrupts a woman there who's calling for the police as these two men are running away.
Right.
And the woman says she's the vicar's wife, Mrs. Ellis.
Yeah, Mrs. Ellis.
And those grave robbers have no morals. And there's an open grave, which is one of the pauper graves.
Yeah.
And someone is looking for something.
Yeah, it's one of those that is marked with an X.
Yeah.
William takes Mrs. Ellis back to Scotland Yard and questions her. Yeah. And we find out this is her story. She was in the parlor, a lovely sunny room, and she was writing to her sister Agatha, and she heard a noise outside. See, this should have been like, these are a lot of intimate details that probably aren't, needed. She said there were no burials scheduled for the day, and her husband is away, meeting with the Bishop of Canterbury, and she seems real proud of that. So she went out to investigate the noise, and she immediately knew it was body snatchers. It's a lucrative business, and she shouted, and it is a lucrative business back in this day. Like, they would steal bodies and sell them to doctors, and they would practice their surgeries on them. Mm-hmm. And she makes sure dissection. She was like, no dissection. Yeah. And then she shouted at the men, and William arrived, and they ran away. So this is where we are.
And William asks her for the description, and she says that they're nondescript but grubby thieves.
Well, yeah, she's like, one had dark hair, the other fair. Both were average build. There were no scars. But they were very dirty, like because they were digging.
Grave robbers. Yeah.
Digging in the dirt.
So she leaves. Phelps comes in. They found Moses, and William wants to bring him in personally.
Himself, yeah.
And so then we cut to a different scene where Ivy's in the market.
Oh, yeah.
And Mr. Potts sees her and calls her Mrs. Thackeray because that's who he thinks she is. Whoops. So Ivy almost gets away with it, but the shop clerk, the street vendor there.
Says, there's this really funny exchange, though, with Mr. Potts and Ivy, because he says he shared the news with his mother, that he went to visit his mother. And she was delighted that he was getting invited to the chief coroner's and that she would have loved to come along. And then Ivy just very awkwardly is like, well, she can come along too. And we find out his mother's dead. And he was visiting her grave, but apparently he has full conversations with her, two-sided conversations. Not completely insane. No. I mean, the entire first season was Ivy talking to her dad. Not Ivy, Eliza talking to her dad. So anyways, Ivy excuses herself to make dinner, but Potts is like, wait a minute. It seems odd that you're doing your own shopping, a woman of your stature.
Oh, yeah.
And so she has to pivot again, and she's just like, well, I wanted to make sure that the ingredients were of top quality for dinner tonight. And so she just runs away. And this is when the shopkeeper is like, yeah, Ivy's 1 in a million.
That Ivy's 1 in a million. And like, so that.
And Mr. Potts goes,
what?
What?
So up until that point, like Ivy, great liar. Very good. Very convincing.
And she would have
gotten away with it too.
Get away with it if that shopkeeper would just minded his own business.
So complimentary, you know?
Mind your own business.
So then after that, we cut back to Eliza at Clementine's. She's waiting. The other Clementine, wakes up and shares that the other Clementine saw a man with black hair and the bluest eye of eyes and a crooked smile. That would make the devil whimper. Yeah. Oh, gosh. The writing in this is so great.
But her sister Clementine did not recognize the man.
Because of the rain and the eyesight and the whole thing. Grandmother injury.
Right. And Eliza immediately is like, wait, it hasn't rained in quite some time.
Yes.
So she's spotting all these holes. It hasn't rained. If it was dark out, how did she see that he had blue eyes? Wait. She doesn't have good eyesight. Yeah. She only has eyesight in one eye. And this is when Eliza's like, you didn't go to see your sister Clementine. You drank my money, and that's why you immediately passed out when you came home. And she demands her money back.
Yes.
And Clement's like, oh, got to go to work. Bye. So here's a good place to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to see William corner Moses just outside a bar.
Sounds good. Welcome back. We just finished up with Clementine getting caught in a lie. And so then after that, we cut to Moses.
Right. William's tracked down Moses.
Yes.
They found Moses. And William corners Moses just as he's about to go into a bar where grave robbers drink.
Yeah.
And William asks where Eliza is. And Moses refuses to answer because he's a solid friend to have in your corner.
Yes.
And Moses says, I'll go in and ask around. But William's like insistent. He doesn't want Moses's help. He's like, go ahead. They're going to smell a cop a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
So William goes in. Well, no, first, I guess William asks why he should work with Moses because he's said, why don't we work together to help Eliza? Because they both know she's innocent and these grave robbers will lead them to the real thief.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So William turns him down because he doesn't want to pay Moses for help. And when he walks into the bar, William orders a whiskey and the bartender calls him Inspector.
Oh, yeah. Immediately gets recognized.
And the bar just goes completely silent.
There's a whole wall of people just staring at William.
Right at William. Like,
so it's
a copper.
Should have listened to Moses.
Yeah, Moses could have went in there. He could have found the grave robbers. No problem.
Yeah. So at this point, we cut back to Ivy. There's a knock at the door, and
she thinks it's Eliza.
Yes, but it's not.
It's not. It's Mr. Potts.
He is not happy. The jig is up. Ivy is very sorry. We find out Mr. Potts' first name is Barnabas. Barnabas Potts.
Forgot to write that down.
And he bought a new silk tie.
He did for the dinner, and she felt very, very sad about that. She's like, "You bought a new tie," but he shames Ivy for being unchristian in her ways as well.
Yeah.
And she basically says, listen, I would do anything for that girl. Like, she's basically Eliza's mother.
Yeah.
So this must have, like, tugged on his heartstrings a little bit because he does come back later in the episode, we see. Before that, Mr. Potts kind of lays on this whole guilt thing. He should have known that the chief coroner would never invite someone as lowly as him to dinner. And Ivy insists that she's never done anything like this before. And so it's just like really like, oh,
a lot of guilt.
Ivy,
a lot of guilt
I'm
in this
so
moment.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Potts.
And then we cut from that uncomfortable situation to these two seemingly random men playing cards.
We find relief in a dark basement.
Yeah, really, a dungy, dirty place.
So Moses has found the grave robbers.
Yes.
One of the grave robbers has a really bad wig, right? It wasn't just me, or was that like his hair looked bad?
Oh,
it looked like a real bad wig.
Maybe it probably was.
It pulled me out because I was like, that looks like bad wig hair.
I think I missed that actually this time.
Okay.
So I'll take your
That's
word.
okay.
Usually they're pretty good about this, or when they have a really bad wig
maybe
or
it was
mustache,
on purpose. Like maybe he's just supposed to look grungy and disgusting.
Yeah.
So Moses says that he's there looking for a job, the kind that can make you serious money.
Yeah. So it's basically this is going to be setting up for a sting.
Yeah.
To get them in the act and find out more information.
Yeah. So William had a change of heart.
Yes. So we cut to the serious money job.
They hire him.
Yep. It's nighttime. They're going to be digging graves, and so while they're in the cemetery, they're interrupted by the police.
The police arrive.
So police whistles. It's a sting operation.
They go running.
The two men are caught, and Moses is caught too.
Yep.
But it's all a ruse.
Right.
And we cut back to Scotland Yard, and the men and Moses are separated.
Yeah, because William has Moses.
Yes.
He has him arrested.
Yep.
And he's like manhandling him the whole time.
Yes,
which
treating him like a criminal.
Moses does not appreciate because they are working together.
And William probably does appreciate because
he likes doing that. Yes, okay. Yeah.
So then then in Monroe's office, Mr. Thackeray is not happy. William he says that this proves that the grave robbers were not hired by Eliza, but by an older woman, the vicar's wife. I have it written down here.
Yeah, you caught up. You caught that a lot quicker than I did.
I was like, a woman paid them to dig up all of the paupers' graves listed. All she found were bags of bones, and they call her Bloody Mary.
Yes, her name is Bloody Mary.
And she was at Newgate, where she was like in the penitentiary or asylum. I forget which it is, but
I think it was a prison.
And then this is where we have that like what moment because the you met her.
The gravediggers reveal that Williams already met her.
Yeah.
And it was the woman that was yelling at the men in the cemetery.
It was a cover-up.
And so now Monroe is super mad because the real perpetrator was let go.
Yeah.
First he's mad because Eliza's missing.
Yeah.
Now he's mad because the real perpetrator was in Scotland Yard and they let her go.
Yeah.
So
and William is off the case.
He's taken off the case.
So at this point, we cut back to Eliza at
Clementine's
room. Clementine is returning with a black eye.
Yep.
Her sister saw Bloody Mary, and she's an older woman who's 50 years old.
Very old.
Very old. So
a
old.
woman, fair hair, black dress, and old. Very old.
At 50 years old, which you're like, what now?
I know. You did point out that life expectancy was different in Victorian London, but I'm like, 50's not that far away for me.
Me either.
Very old, at least 50.
I'm closer, so there we go. Yeah, so then we cut to outside, and Moses sees Eliza leaving. Eliza is leaving to quote, solve the case.
Right.
So she's been, like, in Clementine's, like, room, like, the entire
episode,
like, and she's already solved the case.
She also says she's a wily one. Remind me to employ her more often.
Yes.
She's a wily one, that Clementine.
Yeah. I mean, So it's such a great moment.
She's like, I've been cleared, as he's saying, you've been cleared.
Yeah,
and she's like,
knows.
Come on, we're going to go solve the case together. At the vicarage, William goes back to the scene of the crime.
Yep, so we're at the cemetery.
William confirms that the vicar is not married. And Fitzroy arrives, and he's memorized all the information about the case since, William was taken off the case. It's all stored in his little noggin up here. There's no paper trail. And he says Bloody Mary is Mary Dawson, and she was part of a diamond smuggler gang in the 50s, and she was just released from jail.
She spent 25 years in Newgate.
Yeah. And this is when William spots a note on the pauper's grave from a florist.
Yeah.
So someone is sending flowers to a pauper's grave. That seems weird.
It's a clue.
So obviously they go to visit the florist.
So they're at the florist.
To get the sender's address.
And William gets the address of the person sending the flowers. William doesn't want to talk about the case, but Fitzroy definitely does.
Yeah. Fitzroy has lots of questions.
Yeah.
Have you been taken off a case before?
Yeah. And we find out that Carmichael is on the case now.
Yeah.
Which William's not too enthusiastic about that.
Couldn't investigate a booze up in the brewery, that one.
Good quote. I missed that.
I loved that
That's
quote.
A good one.
But again, we get to see William and Fitzroy kind of like trusting each other and building a friendship almost, but a very a very good working relationship too.
And so this is when the florist interjects and says that William is not the only one asking about that particular account today.
Yes,
and so
a lady, blonde hair, determined demeanor. I mean, that sounds like Eliza. That sounds like Eliza.
But is it?
But is it?
No, man. So we cut outside the home, and William meets up with Eliza, escorts her to the carriage, and puts her in Fitzroy's charge.
Which, I mean, why did he do that? Why did he do it?
He tries.
He's trying.
He tries. We know he failed. He's going to fail.
He says, do not speak with her or let her out of the carriage. William goes to the address and knocks on the door, and a man answers, and hey, it's our friend Thackeray.
Who was so insistent that Eliza was guilty.
Right, exactly.
So the chief coroner, Mr. Thackeray, is there.
And William says, you've never mentioned that you've been sending flowers to one of the graves listed in the stolen files.
Yeah.
And Thackeray's like, it was a coincidence.
Yeah. And so
I just like to do this out of the kindness of my heart.
Yeah. They're being, this is happening inside, and we find out that Mr. Thackeray was also born in a workhouse, as William was.
Yes.
So
if we believe this story,
which is what he's saying. So like there's some rapport like being built there, so outside of the home, Eliza's getting restless in the carriage.
Yeah, she's trying to ask questions of Fitzroy.
Yeah, and she asks, "How did William know I was here?" And Fitzroy's kind of like, and eventually,
I'm not supposed to talk to you.
Yeah, eventually Fitzroy tells her that another woman asked the florist, but not
It wasn't Eliza. Eliza said, well, Moses got this information for me.
That's how she found.
That's
another one of those low moments.
Something isn't right here.
There's another woman involved in this. And so inside, William is still interrogating Thackeray. And
right, and Thackeray's mad because William's asking basically if he knows this Bloody Mary, like that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And Thackeray tries to toss William out.
And this is where, as a viewer, you're like, wait a second. They might not be alone, because Thackeray's trying to like push
him out.
Yep.
Like, oh, you got to go.
So,
but like a glass shatters in another room. And Thackeray blames it on the maid.
William draws his pistol. Bloody Mary has a woman held at gunpoint.
Yes.
And it's actually the real Mrs. Thackeray.
The real Cecilia, the real Mrs. Thackeray.
Not Ivy.
Not Ivy this time.
And forces William to put his gun down and kick it over. So Bloody Mary threatens to kill her anyway, is going to kill the Mrs. Thackeray anyway. Thackeray yells out, no. No, please don't. Like, he begs. He begs for his wife's life because she knew nothing about this. And this is when they're saved. Eliza saves the day. She's holding a gun to Bloody Mary's head, and Eliza said, I would recommend you did not do that. Yeah. Eliza to the rescue. Thackeray is cuffed too at this point, which I was like, wow, they must have had more evidence, but he was they kind of pulled everything together. William says, you know that using a policeman's weapon is an offense. And she says, would you have preferred I dispatch Fitzroy? And they both kind of look at each other. I laughed at that. Well, they also look at Fitzroy, and he's like wiping poop off the bottom of his shoe. Right.
So yeah, no, you don't want to send Fitzroy. He's not up for the whole raid and guns thing yet. He's good at the undercover work. He's good at that.
Yeah.
So yes, we find out that.
So we cut back to Scotland Yard.
Yes.
We find out that
we go back there.
Thackeray's real name is Alfie Frampton.
Yep.
And that Bloody Mary was his fiance, and that
they were small town crooks.
Yeah. Alfie swallowed the stolen diamonds when they were caught. Mary was caught. Alfie escaped and faked his own death.
Yeah, he faked his own death. He used the corpse from the Pauper's grave in Highgate. And so he's been sending flowers to this grave because the man... Did he murder the man, by the way? I wasn't sure.
I don't think so. I think
he mentions, like, cutting his face.
Well, I think he stole the body from the grave, like a
fresh body.
Like a fresh body.
Yeah,
and then he gave it a matching scar, and then that's what he used for to fake his death.
I wasn't quite clear. And
I don't think he's a murderer. I think he's an opportunist.
So yes, he used the corpse to fake his own death, and he sends flowers to the grave as a thank you.
And so then we cut to Monroe's office. William talks about the scar from Crimea.
And Monroe's really upset because it seems like William is kind of accusing Monroe of being duped, and he was, but he's like, I'm not the only one that believed that.
Yeah. And then Detective Phelps comes in and takes a seat.
Yeah, he's told to sit.
And then, quote, Mary Dawson thought that she'd found the diamonds in one of the bodies because, like, that's why she was digging up all these.
She was looking for it because he swallowed the diamonds. So
she thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And so she wanted to get the diamonds that they stole.
Right,
and so that's
from the rotted flesh.
Yes. So, and Monroe offers Phelps a whiskey.
Mm-hmm. We see some loyalties changing here.
Thackeray wanted to pin it off on Eliza, and then William is dismissed.
Yep.
And Phelps is a loyal man.
Yep.
So
Monroe's just looking for a yes man.
Yep.
That's all that's happening here. Back at Eliza's, she is telling William that Monroe's being selfish because Monroe's now turned his loyalty away from William. But William points out he just wants some loyalty, and this is all Eliza's fault, even though she saved Mrs. Thackeray and William's life. It's all her fault. And she also knows that William teamed up with Moses.
And she says that they make quite a good partnership. Yeah. So I was like, Eliza definitely teases him about it a little bit.
And he doesn't like to be teased.
No, but there is really good banter here. And then there's a knock on the door, and it's Mr. Potts.
Oh, yes, that's right. Mr. Potts arrives, and Eliza assumes that he's there to ream her out.
Yeah.
But no, he's not interested in talking to Eliza.
No.
He wants to talk to Ivy.
She made an impression on him.
Because apparently he really likes Ivy, and she's made him some sort of pudding. I can't remember.
Steamed pudding as an apology.
Prince Charles's favorite or something like that?
I think so. Yeah. So it's maybe like since Ivy felt so guilty. She
said, "Please let me cook for you.
Let me make you some steamed pudding."
Yeah. And so that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, Eliza for once is speechless.
Yeah, she's just standing there like what?
And that's how the episode
ends.
Mr.
Potts looks so happy. Ivy looks so happy. I'm like, I love this romance.
Yeah, it's a very cute one. It's really good. So, and that's the end of the episode.
That was such a fun episode, and so many twists and turns too. These episodes have so many twists and turns. It's like the season 1, there were, we started off, it was kind of a slower build. There weren't quite so many twists and turns, but now it's like just
it's rapid fire.
Yeah, all the time. There's new twist around every corner.
The plots are very convoluted. There is a lot of like,
wait, there's more.
Wait, there's more. There's a lot of it. Wait, there's more. So I'm thoroughly enjoying this. Looking forward to next episode.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I have no idea what's in store for us.
So please watch along with us if you can. Thank you. Yep.
And please play along with us on Bingo. You can get that card at witf.org/psbingo. And once again, email us the clues that you find at ps@witf.org.
And at the end of the season, we'll send you a YouTube link with our special bonus episode where we reveal all the clues. Maybe I'll find some of the reveals as well as we go through this. So.
Yeah, I'll have to rewatch this episode and see what I can find. If you love Postscript, be sure to review us on your favorite podcast platforms. Like, subscribe, and comment at youtube.com/@WITF-Mosaic. And we will see you next week for episode 4.
Sounds good.